If we then can move on to the next part of our proceedings, I would then like to just introduce Walter Van Niekerk of NLT. Dr. Van Niekerk is a senior lecturer at the Department of Agriculture and Economics at the University of the Free State. He enjoys sharing his passion for agriculture with agriculture students and contributing to their practical education. A practical person himself, Dr. Van Niekerk is always eager to learn and to expand his knowledge. A practical learner, he excels in agriculture science at Boland Agriculture High School, and he since earned his PhD in this field. His research focused on livestock economics and agriculture production system. Walter, thank you so much. We're looking forward to listening to you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm from Bloemfontein, so I just bought 20 minutes worth of airtime this morning for English. So if it runs out, then I will just switch over to my steady old Afrikaans. Right, so let's get into it. I'm going to talk about Lucerne and Lucerne hay and Lucerne production and the Lucerne hay industry in South Africa. Now, Lucerne plays a pivotal role within the South African agricultural sector in terms of production side and the end of the value chain on the user side of Lucerne hay. So on the production side, it can be in terms of it can be used as diversification. It can be used as a sort of way to help you with your cash flow due to the nature of the product, and then especially with the end consumer that is the user of hay, that plays a pivotal role in animal nutrition. Now, especially within high-producing dairy cattle. Now, Lucerne hay can be produced in various climate conditions. It can also be produced in various soil conditions, but the two constraining factors of Lucerne, and especially Lucerne hay, is it is water needy, it uses a lot of water, and it also is quite dependent on weather conditions, especially in the hay making process. Now, the superhero always has a something that makes him distinguishing from the rest. Now, Lucerne's superhero power is it can be used as a roughage and it can be used as a concentrate. Right, so Lucerne has a high digestible rate, it has lots of nutrients, and it also has a lot of microelements. Now, I'm an agricultural economist. I had animal science up until my 4th year, and then I went on with economics. So I asked our animal nutritionist to give me some pointers and give me some information. And it was very complicated, and the short of the long of the whole 2-hour conversation is that I must stick to my day job and not be an animal nutritionist. And the short and the long was that there's no replacement for Lucerne hay as an animal feed in animal nutrition. Now, the parameters used in determining the quality of any animal feed is primarily on these key pivots, that is crude protein, ADF, NDF, ash, lignin, and also the overall digestibility of these parameters. Now, these parameters can be used in isolation, or it can be used in a combination to determine the quality, but let's first just talk about how this quality is measured. Now, the first way is wet chemistry analysis. That is where you put up on your goggles and your lab coat, and you go to the lab and they take test tubes and throw a number of things in that test tubes and give you an answer. Very complicated, very costly, it's time sensitive, etc., but that is the true reflection of the value of what's being analyzed. Then the next one is the old tables that is used. The olden days when we studied, you had a table within a textbook that said, okay, I want to see what's the nutritional value of Lucerne, and they said, was it cut early, post-bloom, etc., and they will give you the value. Now that was a broad average value of all hay that was analyzed over time, so that can be one of the ways our value is, the value of the parameters is calculated. The last one is making use of new technologies, near NRIS, near infrared spectrum, yeah, that thing. Sometimes your tongue does not want to work. So what that thing do is, it is a technology that is used to do calculations and determine the quality of Lucerne. Now, the thing that you must remember is the only solid proven way of determining the quality of Lucerne is wet chemistry analysis. So if you want to understand or predict or calculate the quality of any of these parameters, then you have to refer back to wet chemistry analysis. The other two methods is purely on a prediction basis. Right, so how we developed in the industry over time is, up until 2008, the way of grading Lucerne was very subjective. It was done by smell, color, leaf content, foreign material, etc. Like I said, it was very subjective in the way that the analysis was done. So there was a need to take the human factor out of this equation and to get a more objective way of doing these calculations. Now, that is where the NIRS technology comes into play. It is a nice, fast, accurate measure of predicting the quality of Lucerne. So in the US, over 80% of Lucerne that is analyzed to determine the quality is by making use of this technology. Now, it all comes down to the calibration that is used, and now you're going to ask me, what is a calibration? So the easiest way for me of explaining this without confusing myself is, you can think about it this way. That instrument takes a high definition infrared photo of whatever it sees. It takes that photo, it does magic in the background, and it goes to its library. In the library, he goes through all the photos it has seen before, and then it tells you, okay, right, I've seen this before, and this is the value that was allocated to that photo, and that is the value of the different parameters that we test for. So the bigger the library, the better the accuracy of the calibration. So this is done from 2008 till currently. Each year we all add almost 120 samples to catch variation throughout the year within the calibration. So we want to make sure that our calibration is very robust in predicting the quality of Lucerne for the producers and the users of Lucerne. Now, like I said, there are various different ways in calculating or determining the value of hay. So it can either be a single parameter, or it can be a equation or a group of parameters. So Dr. Scholes, he contributed to the field of knowledge. He set up the NLQI, the new Lucerne Quality Index, and that is to determine the quality of the Lucerne, and it was based on milk yield in dairy cows. So he did animal science stuff and he fed different quality hay to milk producing cows, and he said, okay, right, with the research and with all the things that animals nutritionists do, they can predict what the milk quality will be by using different grades of lucerne hay or different qualities. So you can see the table that is lucerne hay quality is divided into a supreme, prime, grade 1, 2 and 3. So each of these grades have different applications within the industry. In the dairy industry, livestock industry, ostriches, small livestock, large livestock. So each one of these grades has a role that it plays within the industry. Just a short explanation, an index works like this. 100 is the normal, 110 is 10% above the normal, and say 90% is 10% less than the normal. So what is the function of the National Lucerne Trust? That is, you compare it to what the MPO is currently doing. It's the sustainability of the industry that focus on the benefits of the producers and the users of that specific product. So we want this industry to remain sustainable and to remain relevant for next generations. So we're currently building to make this industry as good as possible. So we're currently building constantly on our calibration. We want to make sure that it is repeatable and international recognizable when it comes to exports. So we want to make sure that our system works as efficiently as possible. Afterwards, you can go there to our gazebo, and there's one of the NRI instruments, and we can have a discussion if you need to know more about how the technology works. Now, the rest of the aspects that we do, we focus primarily on also research, development. The National Lucerne Trust also has a Lucerne seed side where they do verification or certifying Lucerne seed to be sold to the public. On the research level, we make sure that we contribute to the industry. So we have trials in Jacobsdal and various other sites where we plant different cultivars of lucerne hay to test yield and quality of the lucerne hay. So we also do development where we engage with smallholders, and the overall function is just the sustainability of the industry, and we also adhere to the guidelines set by the NAMC. Now, let's get back to grading. So, lucerne grading is one thing in terms of putting a grading system on the table, but it's like a computer. The one guy said Excel does not work good with him, but then the other guy said it is the guy behind the mouse that can't work Excel. So the basic function of these things is that garbage in, garbage out. So there is a set protocol that is used to get repeatable results within this grading system. So there is a whole protocol that is set up to get repeatable results. The way that the sample is taken, the sample is stored, the sample is presented to the NRI machine, all these aspects, there is a protocol that is fixed that enable you to get repeatable results. There's also a video on YouTube that you can go and watch if you want to see more about the lucerne grading system, how it's done, etc. We also provide lucerne hay grading courses that will also enable you to understand the inner workings of the lucerne plant, hay making procedures, all those kind of aspects. So you can just in YouTube type in lucerne hay grading South Africa, and my colleague will pop up on the first video for you to enjoy. There is Afrikaans video, but there is English subtitles. Just one more thing on this slide is we get a number of disputes within the industry on quality differences, and there was relatively few cases, few to none, where the problem was with the calibration and with the instrument. The main problem was that the sampling protocol was not followed correctly. Factors affecting lucerne high quality. It's usually, lucerne high quality you can divide into three aspects. It is the production of lucerne high up until cutting, from cutting till after baling, and then the grading system. So we've done the grading system. On the production side, it's all about fertilizer, choice of cultivar, pesticides, herbicide, getting that plant as healthy as possible up until cutting at the correct stage of production to get the optimal quality hay. So there is optimal cutting stages. So if you see your lucerne is full in bloom, it might look pretty, but it won't taste that good for cows. Then your yogurt will taste funny. Grappie. I had a joke about why does a cow have such a long face, but I was advised not to tell the joke. Right, okay, so on production side, it's all about fertilizer, pesticides, herbicide. Now, on the hay making side, you want to get as much as possible leaves within inside that bale. So everything that prohibits that from happening, the quality of the lucerne hay drop. It all comes down to leaf retention. You can think about on the lucerne stem, there's a little smaller stem that's attached to the leaf, or the leaf is attached to that. When hay making procedures is not followed correctly, or if there are different or changes in climate conditions, that plant does not dry off evenredig oor die hele plant nie. En dan veroorsaak dit dat daai blaar afval wanneer ook al any mechanized actions is, and when raking is not done correctly, wrong time of day, aggressive when the baling is not done, or when there's sufficient dew on the plant, moisture, all those kind of things. So hay primarily has a large implication on the quality of hay that is produced. So you can do everything correct in terms of the production side, but it can be lost with incorrect hay making procedures and with not ideal climate conditions. Right, now we're coming up to my field of expertise, markets, and what's happening within the lucerne industry. Lucerne is primarily produced, lucerne hay is primarily produced within the Northern Cape province. That is mainly due to the climate. We have a nice warm climate there, and with the ability to give lucerne water as much as they need with our irrigation scheme. So you can think about the Vaarlots, Jacobsdal, Hopetown, Van der Kloof, Douglas, all along the river. We, under irrigation circumstances, we have the resource of giving lucerne water when it needs us, and we can take it away for the hay making process to proceed to produce good quality hay. Lucerne production, South Africa produces around 1.4 million tons according to the Department of Agriculture. Now that hay is not classified between hay that lands in the formal market, informal market, or whether or not it's used as grazing. So that is the estimated, you can get that data in the abstract of agricultural statistics. So that is the formal data. Now the data that we have is all the lucerne that ends up in the formal market, the formal hay market. That is all the lucerne that is formally graded or went through the grading process. So that's around 400 to 450,000 tons, and that primarily depends on the climate of the production season. If there is a lot of rain, not ideal winemaking conditions, then usually the supply drops. Then over time, the export market also opened up, and especially from 2020, we usually export around 160 to 240,000 tons per year. So that also gives stability to the price for the producers. That's not necessarily what the end consumers want. So exports, if you look at world countries in the world exporting, it's dominated by the US, Spain, Australia, and they also have tendencies and cycles within the production years that influence the amount that is exported. At least South Africa falls under the top 10 exporting countries to the world, and which also is very good for the producers of Lucerne. And that means the producers is doing something right to have a good quality hay. It's only superior quality hays above normal, grade 1, supreme, prime and grade 1, that's primarily exported, and to the end of the season with a high international demand, grade 2 will be exported as well. South Africa on a constant basis prior to the Chinese market that opened up, exported to the Middle East, Saudi, Dubai, UAE, and our neighboring countries. After 2020, when there was a protocol signed by the South African government and the Chinese government, exports to the Chinese market also grew, and that also had an implication on price that I will show you. Importing countries of Lucerne in the world, primarily, once again, the Far East, Middle East, those countries with a high demand for milk products, imports a lot of hay. So on the marketing side and the contributions that we make is that we want to obtain new markets for our products, and that is why we can see that Japan is a new market for us that we did not yet investigate. Quality throughout the season or quality distribution of the yield. So each time we do analysis on that instrument, it saves the data. So I took all the data that was on all the instruments that has the calibration on. It saves the data, and there are over 50 of them, and just to give you a breakdown, that 50% is grade 1, and only a small percentage of the annual yield is a supreme quality. Then quality variation throughout the season. Lucerne quality is primarily dependent on the production and the hay making process, and ideal conditions is usually between temperatures between 22 and 26 degrees. So that is primarily in the beginning of the season, and the end of the season you get the higher grades of Lucerne, and that is just the most ideal conditions for hay making. If you go into the midsummer, it becomes too hot and the plant does not grow. It grows very, very good, but the nutritional quality within that plant decreases. Interesting story, I can tell you from only having a look at the Lucerne prices, producer prices, farm gate prices. So transport is not included in these prices. In the first part, I don't know, I have a way to show you that, but the first part of this graph, you can see it makes peaks and dips. That is the seasonality of Lucerne. That is just a supply response, meaning that in the winter months when Lucerne goes to sleep, there's a shortage of Lucerne in the market, and that means price peaks. Then after those seasonality, you can see that prices moves more to the side just before that major peak in prices. That is in that specific time where the Chinese markets opened up and it took out the seasonality of prices out of it. You will see when prices move away from each other in different grades, that's usually indication that there is a lot of Lucerne within the market, and that just shows you that the price difference between grades will be around 150 to 200 rand a ton. When Lucerne is in a shortage, in a low demand, a low supply, that means the prices will move closer together. That aggressive increase in prices was mainly due to the aggressive demand from the Chinese market with a low supply within the local South African market. That causes a tremendous increase in prices, and then prices had a dip. That was mainly due to the Chinese market stopped buying hay within the South African market due to economic slowdown that they had in that current period, and also their harvest was congested and hulle kon nie hulle containers by hulle plase uitkry nie. There you see I'm losing signal. Prices had a little bit of an increase because they start buying again. This is just to show you how one small international market had an influence on the local prices, and prices dropped again. And you can see it moved more away from each other. That means that there was a lot of hay in that market. Now that's just a response to high prices. When prices is high, everybody wants to have part of that. Everybody is producing. That means just the oversupply in the market, and that's what we are now. We are now going into our next season. That is, will start, the first cuts will start, already started, and will happen in the next 3 weeks. And that will give us an indication what will happen in the market for the next season. A couple of things to keep in mind. The exchange rate is currently strong. The US has their elections, and if Trump wins the election, he does not drink tea with the Chinese, and then that will be beneficial for the South African product. Again, within the international market, keep in mind the wheat of the maize price, because the producers have to decide whether or not they're going to plant early maize and take out the lucerne. So my expectancy of the market is it will move sideways. I read an article this morning that said that the Chinese milk price dropped dramatically. The US prices of lucerne is also down, so that can be beneficial for the users of lucerne, that the price can move more sideways than it can go up. But the first 2 months of the season will probably determine that. Right, so in conclusion, that I want to give to you, if there's a few things that you must remember from this presentation, is that with any grading system, it protects and it's beneficial for the producer and the consumer. The producer wants to be compensated for delivering a superior product within the market, and the consumer wants the ability to buy different qualities at different prices, and he wants to be ensured that if he pays X amount for grade A, there I made my first mistake, for prime lucerne or grade 1 or 2, that is the quality that he will be getting. So our job is to ensure that whatever is stated on that certificate is a true reflection of the hay quality. So I want to urge you, if you buy lucerne, ask for a hay grading certificate. Make sure you understand the parameters that is used to determine the quality. There's a booklet in your goodie bags, I think, that explains that. There's also the video on YouTube that you can watch. Remember, if you don't use the grading system, all the parameters that you will use in animal nutrition will be provided on the certificate. Protein, dry matter, ADF, NDF, ash, lignin. So we just want to urge you to ask for a certificate, and keep in mind that each truckload of lucerne comes with a certificate. Due to the variation in the product, it's difficult to get a lot of lucerne to grade it as one. So we grade it as per truckload of lucerne. So each truckload you can ask for a grading certificate to get a true reflection of what's going on in terms of quality. Then the last thing is on our banners, you will see that there's a QR code. Information is provided there. I won't send pictures of my next hunt or the fish or the cat's newborn. I won't send that on the group. It's only for official information that will be provided by the NLT. There's no discussions on that group, so it's only information posted by management. Thank you very much for listening. Just remember, ask for your grading certificates, and we will be here all day if you have any questions. We'll be more than willing to help you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walter, for this insight in this very important commodity in our organization in dairy production, milk production.